Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome to the highlights from this week of Chaos Season offense matches. I've been looking forward to Ashnard's Refine for a while now. It's hard to believe he debuted on my AR teams over 3 years ago. His weapon got a pretty spectacular update, tricking out his previous rain effect with well attack defense, guard, and follow-up denial, and extending the range to 4 on top of that, makes him a powerful support option. And the extra stat penalties and damage reduction he applies to his own combats leans really neatly into my previous approach to his builds. Together with Hold, he can pretty consistently knock out around 22 of his opponent's attack, and together with his solid defenses, he becomes very difficult to bring down. Gambit feeds into Gurgurant's lack of slaying really nicely, bringing Ashnard's passive damage reduction to a total of 65%, and adding a significant chunk of damage to every swing. I decided to lean into speed with this build. While his visible speed isn't particularly impressive, once his skills and support are added in, he can reach an effective 81 speed in combat, more than enough to secure doubles on his own, even without a guaranteed follow-up in his kit. Lilith is his primary support and bonus unit for the week. Her ability to donate null follow-up to any movement type has always been a great bit of utility, especially paired with the mobility she gets from her weapon. The warp effect makes it very easy for her to find a safe spot to support Ashnard with Goad, while Sudden Panic and her bonus week stats let her sabotage enemy bonuses pretty consistently. The rest of the team offers more standard support. Freyr is an excellent option for any tanking strategy in Chaos weeks, shutting down all of the most problematic penalties that a defense team might bring to the field, along with Shrines, Schools, and Panic Manners. Gatekeeper, as always, brings an excellent blend of cross-map stats and healing support, as well as shutting down enemy warp effects. Peony rounds things out with another layer of cross-map stat and healing support, along with the utility of enabling Kanto for the team. Together with Lilith and Freyr, she also fully activates Ashnard's Prime without needing to dance him directly. So let's get to the first match. This match was a fun one to run into early in the week. It's always great to see people committing to their favorites, and both of the Catries on this team are really impressive. Wind Tribe Catry is deceptively speedy too, reaching almost 100 combat speed thanks to her weapon scaling with her team's bonuses. And it isn't a good idea to ignore the other threats on the team either, with Triangle Attack giving all of them a lot of extra firepower to work with. The team does seem a bit vulnerable to ranged attackers, but it's also very likely that Hel gets danced by Plumeria afterwards, giving her access to most of the map thanks to her warp effect. Of course, Ashnard isn't here to hit and run. We get things started on the first turn here. Pulling Ashnard to the side puts Lilith into her ideal support spot, and dancing Ashnard lets him open up the catapult, and Kanto back to bait out their team from outside of Hel's rain effect. They also deliberately leave Gatekeeper in the corner here. While he isn't shutting down warp effects into the ranged spots that can attack Ashnard, I don't want to this turn. And Golveg moves in to take the first triangle attack. Unfortunately for her, she's not fast enough to avoid being doubled by Ashnard, and he can take her down pretty easily. Plumeria moves in next, and can get a chunk of damage done too, thanks to that true damage, but it's not enough to really threaten Ashnard. Katria no longer has an option to use a triangle attack, but even if she could have, it still wouldn't be enough to quite activate Miracle. And from there, the melee can't get in reach of us this turn. So it's time to bring the fight to them. I dance Ashnard forward here, just to make sure that he gets his visible bonuses back online, and then move all the way in to bait out Hel and Robin. Lilith can move in behind him to support, and we can just use Gatekeeper to make sure that we don't actually knock everything out this turn. Although we didn't end up needing to worry about that in the first place. I had forgotten to add in Hel's rain effect to the combat calculations for Robin. I expected Ashnard to be able to double him there. But works out pretty well. We still take out Hel, and while Robin is a little close to our backline, he's low enough that Lilith has a very easy time finishing him off and getting our bonus unit knockout for the match. We do still need to reach the Aether pots too, so we just need to make sure that Katria doesn't actually get herself knocked out this turn.
How wonderful.
And by repositioning Lilith up, we can get her on the top side of the map, use Gatekeeper to bait Katria, and sit back for another turn. Without her teammates or a damaging special, there's not really much she's going to be able to do to Gatekeeper, and she's never going to attack Ashnard since he'd just knock her out on the counterattack. So from there we can just use some repositions, get Peony into range of one pot, have Lilith grab the second, and have Ashnard close out the match. Things stayed pretty quiet after that until we got closer to the end of the week. This match was another neat one to run into, starring 2 bonus units from this year's Desert banner. Igreen is a good complement to the Windy Clod in the corner, acting as an effective counter to any winter byleths that would give him trouble. Altina and Ash form a solid front line that can be difficult to break through, especially with Corrin giving them another layer of protection from ranged attackers. The team also has a lot more mobility than it looks at first. Between Ash's guidance effect and Igreen donating extra movement to most of the team, it's easy for them to catch an attacker out of position. I took a slightly more careful approach to this. While we still get things going on the first turn and set Ashnard up to tank most of the enemy team, I do position Gatekeeper to prevent Claude from reaching him here. Claude's null panic means that he'd be able to speed tie Ashnard, and I didn't want to risk Ashnard having to tank a second lethality after Ninian danced him. Instead, we get to frog off the AoE and hit from Igreen, along with the piercing special from Altina, before seeing Ash move in and not be able to do anything to him. This approach also means that we get to knock out Ninian here, and not have to worry about a dancer going forward. And since the other two can't reach us, that closes out the first turn. From here, I mostly want to make sure that we deal with Claude, and, conveniently, we can dance Lilith forward and take him out here, which also secures our bonus unit knockout. And the donated Kento means she can move all the way to the top and stay out of range of Corrin, at least once Corrin loses the extra movement that she got from Igreen. Unfortunately, Corrin does end up chasing Peony, which makes it a little bit more awkward than I'd like to pick up both Aether pots this turn. So instead I just take advantage of Lilith's warp effect and have her pick up the Aether pot on the other side of the map, and start moving into position to get ourselves to the second one and finish the match next turn.
Reporting for duty.
It's still a little bit further out of reach than I'd like, but thanks to some dancing and Kento shenanigans, we can move Ashnard up, break this healing tower from the left side, and let Lilith warp over to pick up the second Aether pot, before letting Ashnard close us out by enemy facing Corrin. This match was a great way to close out the week, featuring some of the most recent player phase powerhouses. Yunaka and Sanaki are a dangerous pair of ranged attackers. Even if Yunaka gets knocked out, Fatal Smoke lets her damage stick, and the dagger penalties set up Sanaki to demolish whatever's left of her target, if they managed to avoid penalties in the first place. The Winter Edelgard is another major threat. Her full pierce lets her crush most opponents in a single hit, then use those extra actions to pick off the backline as well. Like the first match, this one does seem a bit vulnerable to ranged attackers, especially without a Dancer to help them chase down any hit-and-run strategies. Although the Brave Edelgard does shut down Winter Edelgard approaches very neatly. Of course, we are going to tank this instead. I do need to be careful with the approach for this one. While Ashnard is more than capable of tanking through this team, not having a way to neutralize penalties applied after the start of the turn means that he needs to deal with Yunaka before getting in range of Tsunaki. And what better way to do that than by simply outspeeding her when she attacks into him? With Yunaka down, Freyr moves in to attack next, but he is not as much of a threat. And with the rest of their team out of range, that's all there is for this turn. With Freyr down, that actually unlocks Tsunaki's rally, and means that I can just move Ashnard into this choke point to block in the rest of their team and tank through everything except for Tsunaki. With Freyr neutralizing the start of turn penalties, she's not actually going to be able to do enough damage to him to justify attacking him instead of rallying. Which means that doing this still means we get to pick up our Aether pots after this turn. Edelgard moves in, takes her swing, and doesn't really do enough damage to put Ashnard into too much danger. And from there it's all downhill. Arvel can't even outdamage Ashnard's post-combat healing, and the Brave Edelgard isn't getting anything done. We aren't quite able to pick up both of these Aether pots and close things out this turn, but thanks to a little bit of help from Lilith's Warp, we can pin Tsunaki into this corner and make it a lot easier to pick them up on the following turn. And from here we just let Freyr pick up the first pot, move Gatekeeper forward and dance him, have Ashnard pull him over to the right, pick up our second Aether pot, and let Lilith pick up that bonus unit knockout to close out the week. I had a lot of fun this week. It's always great to have an excuse to bring an old favorite up to date, and feels even better to see them do really well with their new options. I'm looking forward to having him back on the roster, and his weapons support options give him a lot of flexibility in the role he takes on his teams. I do have a Discord channel if you'd like to hang out and chat, there's a link in the description, and I've also got a Patreon link there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.